In the previous video, I removed the old foam seals, and in this video, I will cover installing the new foam seals. I'll leave a link below that points to the previous video. Now we can get back to cutting new foam strips. So one thing you might want to do is probably measure these foam strips, what you'll need. These I make, looks like these are 1.5 millimeters. Actually, you could even go up to 2 millimeters. 2's a bit of a stretch, so I'd probably make them, 1.5 millimeters I think is good. So you get out your sheets of foam. And I've been using this one for a while, so I'll just continue using this. And you start cutting 1.5 millimeter sheets, or strips. You start cutting 1.5 millimeter strips. So you can either, if you happen to have see, these are so narrow that you probably don't even want to bother with a paper cutter. I don't know the current price on these, but at the time I was only paying maybe $2 a sheet, maybe a bit less, so not a significant amount of money. And I was doing quite a few cameras, so that's why I was buying these in sheets, because I think some of those kits could cost up to $15 or $20, and I thought, wow, that's a lot of money to be going through for one camera. Here we are. Now, if you want to test fit it, you can. Right, so all we're going to be doing is pushing this right into this channel. You see how that fits very nicely? Now, because we have, let's see, 2, we're going to cut one more strip. Don't forget we also have this channel here. We have this side panel, and then we have the mirror box. I don't know why I wiped off the mirror box. Let's give that a go here. There. We're still getting a bit of debris out of the camera. I want to blow this out, but I'm going to blow it off screen. I didn't want to get that. If there was any debris, I didn't want to get that onto my working surface. Okay, here we go. Second slice. Once again, this is going to be roughly 1.5. That's 1.5 millimeters, by the way. And if you're off by a fraction, don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. See, now you can pretty much eyeball it, right? Do I have a nice clean strip here? Is it roughly consistent in width? And yes, it is. And the easiest way to cut this is not to try to cut it in one pass, but to cut it in multiple passes. Here I was hanging off the cutting board. Now I'm going to cut a separate strip for this back, because if you recall, the back is this portion is wider. So this is 2 millimeters. So we'll cut a piece that's 2 millimeters. That's easy enough to do. In fact, it's actually easier to do. because I'm not trying to eyeball between 1 and 2. It's a little bit wider than I wanted, but that's not going to be a problem. Sure. Put that up here because I knew that has to be wider. Finally, we want to cut some strips for here, and then also the mirror box. Now, like I said, I know these are 4 millimeters wide, and in this case, so this is a bit tricky, right? So what are we going to cover here? So the original piece covered both this and a little bit of this. So I think we can make that, make it so it covers both. So that is going to be 4 millimeters. So it's 4 centimeters by 4 millimeters. And on the back, that's going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7 millimeters. Well, really just shy of 7. So we can do roughly 6.5. So let's do our 6.5 first. That'll be easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, let's just do 7. Actually, that's 12, isn't it? See, that's why you always measure again. Okay, 5, 6, here's 7. 5, 6, 7. You know what they always say, measure twice, cut once. Now, because I know that this is going to be adequate for the back, see how that slides in real nicely? I also know that I can use the other end of the piece. Well, let's just cut this first. So this is going to be 4 and 43 millimeters. Here, 1, 2, 3, 43. In this case, you could just use a pair of scissors if you wanted to and come in here, give it a nice clean snip. There. Watch how this goes on. So you pull off the paper backing and you simply stick this on right in that spot. I don't like how that went on, so I'm going to pull that down slightly before I tack this down for good. Now, see how I have a little bit of white debris in here? All gone. Now you can take the back of your tool, the non-sharp edge, just sort of push it down into position. Still have a little bit of white here. So That's the paper backing, of course. And that's it. You can keep working on that, but it might just stay there. There. Let's do the mirror chamber. So we know the mirror chamber really only needs to be 4 centimeters or 4 millimeters wide. So I need to take off measure that one more time. Well, let me cut one that's 4 centimeters wide. When I cut that, I didn't eyeball it so well. There we are. That's a straighter edge. In this case, I'm just going to come right from the front and cut it. Here it is. And let's see if we can cut it straight this time. Yeah, that looks straighter. Now we can just dry fit this. By dry fitting it, you can see how it's a bit too wide. Right? You see that? So what am I going to do? I'm going to take and I'm going to trim off the end. And remember, this doesn't block light. This doesn't block light, so if it comes up slightly short, you're still okay. Because this is really just a cushion. This is a cushion for the mirror. Now this is still definitely too wide, and you don't want this to be too wide, because otherwise, if it's too wide, then it intrudes in upon the viewfinder. So once again, this was 1, 2, 3. What did I say? 4. I know I keep measuring this. I think I can get away with 5. Which really is right about there. Don't forget you're using a sharp edge, so always be mindful of where your fingertips are and respect the cutting edge. Same thing, you have a little bit of white debris on here from the paper backing. You can use that toothbrush. If you have some black stuff on there, always make sure you clean that off first. Now we'll remove the paper backing. Oh, I should have mentioned, one good tool to have is a nice long pair of tweezers. Because now you can take this piece in. Now you can take this piece and you can put it right into the mirror box. Use your free finger just to hold it down on the one side while you remove the tweezers. Now I take my other tool and I press it down. Probably should move back just ever so slightly. There. What I like to do is I like to take this tool and just run it right along the length of it. All good. You know, and when I think about it, that wasn't two pieces, right? That was two pieces before. So I'm going to use my tool. I'm actually just going to cut out the section in here. You know, you end up using all these little tools that you never think of you're going to use. There we are. Now we're going to, I think I missed this and went the wrong direction. Or did I? Nope, yep. Here we are. Now we're going to cut it that way. With most cameras, this is a solid piece, and you don't have this weird cutout. There. Now it really does match pretty much what was in there. Not pretty much, it matches what was in there before. And if you really want to, what you could do is put the shutter on B, just press upward a little bit. That'll make sure that seats correctly. All right, so let's set these pieces aside and get rid of some of this debris that's in here. And we'll start putting in some of the other foam. Next, let's drop this piece in here. So here it's going to be, and you can, once again, you can just dry fit these. This is going to run right to here. So you can take that, and if you have your pair of scissors, even a small pair of scissors will be fine. Just nip that right there. Once again, take that paper backing, remove it. Whoops. Go. You'll notice, see there are a couple small particles in there. You can try to brush them off with your toothbrush, or you can pick them off. Now we'll put that into place. Am I going to use my tweezers? Yeah, I think I will with this one. So we're going to start it here. And then we're going to actually create the little bend. Push it into the bend. There. Now remember, if it runs slightly beyond the original, you're okay. It's still going to be okay. So this runs slightly beyond, maybe by, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter or so, or 1 millimeter, but that's not going to be your problem. Remember, you can always go beyond, but you should never go less than what was in there originally. This is real sticky, so I'm trying to get under that pressure plate. There it goes. Now I often will take the back edge, just run it in there. Run along the top of the foam. Now if it appears to be pushing to one side, you can just take your X-Acto, just push it over. That looks pretty clean. Let's give it a couple brush. Good to go. Now finally, let's remove this. This doesn't need to be here anymore. Finally, we're going to do these pieces. Now this actually is 3 pieces. So you have one piece here that runs up to this small little, looks like a pin, but it's actually a lever. This is the lever for your, this is part of the frame counter, the auto resetting frame counter. So how this works is when the camera back is closed, this pushes a small lever and allows your frame counter to increment. As soon as you, and there's a spring, a coiled spring. So and of course that continues to put more and more tension on the spring. Now as soon as the back opens, this lever pops up and it releases the tension on the spring and the frame counter resets to 0. This is a fairly small piece, so you could probably dry fit this and you're going to come up to right about here. With this foam you can just use your fingernail, put in a little mark, come back with your scissors in just a second and give it a small trim. Where are my tweezers? Here they are. This one's always a bit tricky because it's such a small piece. You could either use your little tiny screwdriver that you use to dig out the foam to push it into place. Or if you want, you can use any other tool that you have at your disposal. Now, because the foam is slightly wider than the channel, you're going to have to really give it a firm push. But just make sure you try to keep that foam back, or the adhesive backing, toward the back. It does want to flip fairly simply. There you go. Now we'll do. Now, just going to drop in the rest of this piece. Well, after we pick it up off the ground after dropping it. So remove that paper backing. And here we go. This tool I like because it's fairly long. All you're going to do is, I'm going to spin this around like this so I can actually control it. You're just going to press that into the channel. Once again, be aware of where the adhesive is. Sometimes you need to pull it out a little bit and then drop it back into place. You don't always press directly down. There are times when you have to press a bit from the side to ease it into the channel. And of course the challenge can be that it all starts looking the same, both the adhesive side and the other side, and it's easy to get twisted, and pretty soon the adhesive is facing up. And I think that's what happened in this case. So we're going to pull this out a bit. Okay, there we are. We're going to drop it back in. So you can see the challenge, you either cut it too narrow and it doesn't really fit correctly, or you cut it slightly too wide and you really have to force it into the channel. which is, I think, the case here. I think this probably is a fraction too wide. But once in, you don't have to worry about it. This is a one-time job. And in fact, with this material, because I found that it doesn't deteriorate over the years, it actually is a one-time job. Oh, see it twisted again right there. There's always a little curve right here, and just work it right around the curve. And you can just take your time. You're not in a big race. So when you get to the end, of course, all you do is you simply take it and trim it. And then push the excess in. If you cut it long, as I've done here, just trim it a second time. And I've cut it slightly long. There we are. Now if you trim it and it's really short, just get another piece of foam and just drop it in there. What I like to do after I get it in there, I take that toothbrush and I just run it right along the channel. This really helps smooth it out, and I found that to be fairly effective. If it's still popping up in certain points, just get your tool, just push it down. Here, look, here's a little bit of the old adhesive. There. That's easy enough to remove. Now we'll do the lower channel. Remember, we had cut that second piece. We'll drop that in, and then we're finished. As with everything, sometimes starting is more difficult than finishing it. So there we are. Got it started right where I wanted to. And now I'll lay the camera down and we'll finish dropping it into the rest of the channel. And like I said, if you feel your foam turning, which I think it already has here, feel free to just pop it out of that channel and pull it back in. That's why I don't press it down until the very end. It gives you the ability to lift that foam and drop it back into the channel. I've also, here's a little trick. If I've had a lot of trouble, sometimes you can temporarily compress it just by squeezing it with your fingers. Then it will drop in a bit easier. Sometimes it works, but you have to work quickly. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now this might seem like it's really complicated, but it's not. It's just take your time. Where Where's this? Oh yeah, here it is. Here we are coming up on that bend. There we go. And almost finished. Yep. So like I said, now we'll take that and we'll snip this right about there. Then we'll finish pushing it right into that channel and then we'll be done. It looks like it twisted just a little bit. And the reason it wants to twist, remember, this is 2 millimeters thick and we cut it, what, roughly 2 millimeters wide. So essentially it's a cube. It's an elongated cube. So that's why it's easy to twist, and it's sometimes difficult to tell which is the sticky side. See, I think that twisted again. Let's just pop it out of that channel and we'll drop it back in again. And if this ever tears, all you have to do is simply replace one piece with another piece. You just cut it, drop in a new piece, and you're good to go. See, I think this twisted. Did it? Might have. There we go. Yeah. Get on in there. Remember, you don't want your adhesive sticking up, because then when you close your camera bag, it will then stick to the other part of the back and pull out. That's why you want your adhesive always facing down. Okay. Whew. Sometimes it takes a bit longer than expected. But like I said, I'm not really in a big rush with these. So as we look at this, you might see a little bit of rippling in there. Don't worry about it. When this back closes, it's going to compress everything. The one thing you should do is get another paper towel, wet it with some lighter fluid, and wipe the edges of the back. Wipe these top edges. They will have a bit of, see, you can see right here, they do have a bit of the old foam stuck to it. And so you don't want any of that old foam in here. All right, now we're all done. When you close your back, you'll notice it doesn't want to close. Look at that gap. Or see how it wants to push outward. So that's just a natural product of the foam. All you do is simply force it closed. After like 15 or 20 minutes, or after several times, it will then conform to the shape of the back. And you won't have any problem with it in the future. And that's it. That's how to install new foam seals on a camera. And this is the camera. And those are the new foam seals that we just put in. I think in the next video I'm going to show you how to remove the top deck. It's always different on most cameras, and because I want to clean up this viewfinder a bit. There's some black specks in here. And while black specks in the viewfinder won't affect the final image, they do prove to be distracting. Well, let's put the lens back on the camera. Okay, so this camera has been sitting for a couple of minutes, and let's take a quick look at the seals that we just put in. Now you can see here, you see how this is beginning to conform to the shape of the piece that it matches up with. And remember, we had a lot of difficulty closing the back for the first time. And there still is some tension, upward tension, but that's all right. But now we can just close the back by simply pushing these two pieces together, and it's closed. So every time it's going to become less effort as that foam continues to conform to the shape of the various parts that are matching up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to see me work on another camera, please let me know. I think the next one I'm going to do is probably either a Yashica Electro to work on the pad of death, or correct the shutter squeak in a Canon AE1. Until then, keep on taking photographs.